Hello, my name is Cynthia Segal, and I'm about to become your new favorite psychic. Did you ever find yourself feeling really great and you're heading out to go to a party or go to the office, and when you get there, the people around you feel like, if it's possible, feel like they're draining you, as though the energy that you started with is disappearing? How do we protect ourselves against that? So the first thing that I would check is, how am I? Am I up? Am I fully charged? Is my battery on full, as they say? Or am I feeling a little low today? Because who you are being in every moment is who you're attracting. So if I'm of low energy, I'm going to be attracting people of low energy. And that's actually a great way to check, how am I doing today, by who is brought into your circle that day. The other thing that I would do is, I call it a clearing. And sometimes when you're around people that are, I want to say, not as positive as a clown, not as happy as two goldfish who just met in a little bowl, sometimes people are living their own life, and sometimes what's going on for them is not being interpreted in this moment as joyful. So they're taking on the expressions of sad or heavy or confusion, and then sending out ripples, because we're energetic beings. We all send out ripples of emotion, whatever we're thinking, happy, sad, good, bad, angry, joyful. We're sending this out in ripples. And as you know, more and more people are allowing their consciousness to develop. The consciousness is that beautiful piece inside of us that keeps us on the right path. Sometimes people call it your guidance or your intuition. Sometimes people refer to it as my God light or source energy. So inside of you is this beautiful being who has come to this planet and taken on this casing, the human body, to have the experience of everything the human body can share with you. And sometimes this feels like being drained from the people around you. So there's many things you can do to protect yourself, on the understanding that in most cases you don't need protection. What you need is to raise your energy higher. So let me give you an example of that. Let's say you're worrying about something, and you're worrying about it, and you're worrying about it, and you're worrying about it, and there is no answer because it hasn't unfolded yet. It's actually something that may or may not take place in 3 months from now, but being an intelligent woman, you're getting a head start on worry instead of leaving it to the last moment. So here we are, terrorizing ourselves with the possibilities. Now what we're creating around ourselves is a field of unease. So when someone else steps into that field, they're going to feel it, whether we disguise our feelings with a happy face or not. And that's what you're feeling from other people. So the first thing to be sure of is, am I actually absorbing their energy, or am I just sort of knowing that's the place that they're in? And if it's a knowing that's where they're in, then you can just say until now, which I cover in another video, to release that part of it from your body, I want to say, keep it outside of you. Let's say in another case, you have actually absorbed their story. And so this brings me to my definition of the word compassion, which is a little different than what is commonly accepted and is becoming very highly accepted by the people that get what compassion really is. So, Compassion by Cynthia Segal. Let's say someone says to you, I was in this horrible car accident and this and this and this happened. And they're feeling low. So the old definition of compassion is for you to say, oh my goodness, are you in pain? Did you take care of it? Is there anything I can do to help? Tell me what happened. And they get to recite all the details again, which you can tell they're really loving, telling all the details. And you've been in this situation, I've been in this situation, where something has happened to me, and I love telling the details of the horror of the story, but that's not moving me through it, unless I'm sharing a lesson accompanied with it. If I'm just retelling the story, and you're encouraging me to retell the story on the old definition of compassion, you're having your energy drained, and you're actually not helping this person by giving them the space to retell the story. So the new definition of compassion, and one that I know you're going to adopt, is for me to stay in my happy place. And when you come to me with a story of destruction, terror, something horrible that happened in your life, I get to stay in my happy place and just be there as a listening for you without encouraging you to tell the story. And eventually, the other person will stop the story, and then from a place of compassion, I share love in the form of, what will you do now? So in other words, I'm not supporting them to stay in the story, but I'm helping them to move through the story. And I will tell you, not everyone is ready to move through the story. I met a woman just recently who was telling this horror story to my girlfriend. And I kept thinking, wow, that is terrible. And then I said to her, when did this happen? And she said, actually, it's almost 12 years ago today. And I went, oh my goodness, and you're still telling the story. So I said to her, because I have a habit of blurting out things that are obvious, I said to her, does that make you happy? And she said, what? I said, well, telling that story again. And she said, no, of course not. And so I said, why are you telling that story again? And she said, because it happened. So I gift you with the new compassion, which is, you don't have to go down to the sadness that they're experiencing. You can be a candle to their darkness and stay in a higher place of love and light so that they'll see the difference, and when they're ready, they'll find it again within themselves. Isn't that a more beautiful definition of compassion? Now, if you happen to absorb the story because it's similar to something that happened to you, so now we're on a different level, oh my God, I had the same thing happen to me too, and your story wants to come out and be part of the party. I encourage you first not to share that story unless it's going to make the other person happy. Let's become socially responsible now. Allow the stories that you tell in your mind and through your voice, allow them to support other people, to uplift other people. If it's a horror story and it's resolved or it's not resolved or it's past or you can't even get through it, it's time to stop telling the story to yourself because of the energy that you're putting into your body when you retell a story that doesn't uplift you. It's also time to stop sharing that story with other people, because as a socially responsible human, and you did choose to come back as a human this time, it's your job to share uplifting stories with others, to share love, to keep them high as possible. And if they need to stay low, you definitely need to stay high. So I encourage you to find that strength within yourself, to always stay in your happy place. And if they're draining you, you actually feel like you're being drained by their story, I would ask that you check yourself. Because what's happening is that you are allowing yourself to become engaged in their story. They're actually not doing anything. They're just showing up as perfect human beings. And in this case, they've chosen sad as their expression of the day. You don't have to be sad because they're sad. You can actually stay happy and keep their story outside of you by reciting in your mind, until now, until now, until now, so that their story gets to stay with them. And when they're ready, you can give them a hug and help lift them to a higher place. I was with a client last night, and she was going on about a tragedy that happened in her life that she has decided is very hard for her to move through. And I keep smiling and thinking that what you say and what you think is what you're creating. Now, in her case, she's not ready to hear that the more she keeps saying, it's so hard to get through this, it's so hard to let go of this, that's what she's creating. She's creating a hard place where she can't release the story. But she wasn't ready to hear, maybe it's not as hard as it was yesterday, or maybe it's getting easier, or I think I'm going to try it not being hard today. So, as you see, there's many little things you can do to help others, because as I mentioned, we are human beings. We chose to come back as a human being to relate to other humans, and it's 2015. It's time we became socially conscious in a real way, which is holding our light so bright that the darkness in others identifies with us, and the little light that's inside of all of them. And interestingly, in the Yiddish language, they call it the Pintele Yid, the little light that's inside all of us. That little light, it's your responsibility to flame it on, to let them see the magnificence of themselves in reflection to you. Doesn't that feel great? If you have any more questions, give me a call. I would love to help you through. Not that you're having this problem, but perhaps I could help a friend of yours. Bye now.